Hi guys, welcome back to NFTCON. Today we're going to be talking about the importance of virtual real estate in metaverses. Today on this panel as well, I have Sebastien from Sandbox and also Dirk from Upland as well. Welcome guys.
Hello.
Hi, Michael.
Good evening.
Hi, everyone.
Good morning. Whatever time to your time.
All different time zones. But wanted to kind of do a quick round of introductions and then we'll start diving into a lot of the questions. Dirk, would you want to go first?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Dirk Lueth. I'm the co-founder of Upland, and Upland is part of the Metaverse, which is based actually on the real world. We've launched in 2020, and since then, have been growing quite nicely. We are currently live for a couple of cities in the US. Mainly, we started out in San Francisco, New York, Cleveland and Chicago, and some other cities, and we're going to roll out to more cities because we announced previously we have a partnership with the NFLPA. We're going to roll out subsequently to all US cities, but also we plan on going international very soon.
Excellent. And also Sebastien as well.
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name is Sebastien Borget. I'm the CEO and co-founder at the Sandbox. I'm as well the president of the Blockchain Game Alliance. So the Sandbox, for those of you who don't know yet, it's a gaming virtual world where users and creators can make 3D assets and game experiences and monetize them through the use of NFTs, as well as Sand, our main utility token of the platform. We've been one of the pioneers in the space, building our gaming metaverse for now over 4 years, providing all the content creation tools, 3D editor, marketplace, the map, the game maker without any coding. And we have now brought more than 165 brands and IPs into the metaverse, including Walking Dead, Snoop Dogg, Deadmau5, and several others. And we believe we are now the largest, most decentralized virtual land world with more than 12,000 unique landowners and a GMV that goes above 50 million.
Excellent. Welcome to have you guys both on, and especially with the kind of like both of you guys having really big collaborations as well. I kind of wanted to dive a little bit over to Dirk really quickly. So why did you guys choose to kind of base the virtual land off of like cities within the real world?
Well, that's a very good question, but we said, okay, what is out there? Maybe have to go back where we came up with the idea. It's original. So we were inspired by the game of Monopoly, the board game, what everyone knows, obviously. And we said, okay, and then we took blockchain in there, and we thought about, okay, wouldn't it be great if we just take the real world? And why that also came up, this is maybe a funny story, is at that time, my co-founders, Manny Honigstein, Idan Zuckerman, and I, we were always meeting, as friends, playing. We played actually Monopoly, where we got inspired, but also we watched a series together on Netflix called Stranger Things. And there they have a parallel world, and somehow all that got together. And we said, hey, wouldn't it be great not just to come up with the fantasy world, right? But then also coming up with with something which is based on the real world, which is somehow the parallel world to the real one. And that's how we got out. And of course, when you think about it, and when you use there's in the real world you have so many additional things you can do, because it's based on the real world, starting with real world locations, real world brands you can integrate perfectly into Upland. We just today, for instance, we announced a partnership with Spirit Halloween. So we're going to bring, all those those spooky things into the metaverse. And, those are all they have places, where they live in the real world. And that's how we can perfectly combine it.
Excellent. And kind of like the opposite as well, as like Sebastien, you went the different approach. You actually, you guys created the metaverse like as its own plot. Can you tell me a little bit more about that as well?
Yes, definitely. So our background is we've been 10 years in gaming, and with the first initial version of Sandbox on mobile, we essentially have enabled creators, more than 40 million of them, to make all sorts of experience games. They shared more than 70 million creation at peak, and that's been a large success that contributed toward like the overall success of the Sandbox itself. So we always had that feeling that we needed a way to reward creators for the value they brought to the platform through the time they invest, through the time they spend, as well as playing that content, etc. That's where like we definitely saw at the end of 2017, when we saw the first NFTs, CryptoKitties and CryptoPunk, the benefit of combining the user-generated content with NFTs. Beside that, what we saw as well is like there is a meaning into creating a new virtual world from scratch that would be essentially primarily designed by users, 99% of it, but also bringing and involving IPs and brand. So we came up after some estimation of like what's the ideal size for a world, and looking at other decentralized virtual world like Decentraland, CryptoVoxel by then, etc. We came up with the idea of let's create a map of a 408 to 408 squares. So it's 166, 464 unique parcel in total. And we will progressively sell over time that world, so over a 3 years time lapse. And this is what we did. So since December 2019, we've been releasing progressively a parcel of land, which have been attracting progressively and through our work more and more content creator, more and more communities as well, that are either they're already involved in the crypto space like Binance, CoinMarketCap, and a few other, or existing brands from the physical world or the digital world that include the IP I mentioned, Deadmau, Atari, Roller Coaster Tycoon, Square Enix, Walking Dead, and a few other, as well as communities that come from the metaverse itself, Bored Ape, Gutter Cat Gang, Zedrun, and many other projects in the space. And that's, I think, has proven that the metaverse could be a place that's constantly evolving, where the notion of neighborhood plays a really important role. And what's going to be valuable in the metaverse is not necessarily what's already exists in the physical world. So we are creating new landmark places. We are not just counting on the existing Eiffel Tower or Empire State Building or other monument of the world to trade or recopy what's already valuable. We let users decide what and where will be valuable for them, and work on creating their own neighborhoods, which bring a lot of diversity in terms of like what kind of experiences, what kind of content will be available, and the user through their avatar will be able to see. A little bit true to the definition of like a metaverse from Snow Crash by Neil Stephenson, or the Ready Player One movie, where as you enter one of those spaces, and you will see like music, concerts, virtual show, games, sport events, and many more things, even art gallery, museum, and so on. And the value is defined, and it's not central. It's really decentralized and at any corner of the map, actually, and defined by the users themselves, who, by becoming virtual neighbors, create more value altogether.
I like how you brought up the kind of like the landmarks area. So it's like even for the virtual world and also the physical world too, it's like we kind of see real estate prices, especially in like downtown areas, like really explode because of the fact that it's a more desirable area. So kind of wanted to go into like virtual real estate. So now with kind of like these landmarks and also things that are being built around it, like how do you guys see the kind of like the real estate market in the virtual sense in the metaverse?
Yeah, so first of all, the way we price, because I mean, we as we didn't come up with a completely virtual world, we had the real world as a base, right? So, and we took the real world, and in the US you have public databases like Zillow, where actually we took what the prices are in the real world, and then we came up with a model which actually replicates that in Upland as well. One important thing also in Upland is so when you go in, you see actually the the real property parcels, how they look in real life. It's not just some squares you have to draw, and then you get maybe some 6 squares, and which más o menos defines the property you have. It's really the real property borders, which is quite important also for our users, which give them the emotional touch. Then coming to how do prices are defined, and so we have, of course, also in Upland we have landmarks, and because we didn't put out the landmarks just for sale, for instance, right, where where everyone can buy and gets their purchase. We have special events around the landmarks and the monuments, right? So, for instance, we sold the Rockefeller Center or the New York Stock Exchange, special events, and of course, what we currently see is then that people actually start, and they want to have their properties around that, because they know people are going to those places, because in Upland people will be able to operate businesses even in landmarks, right? Even in the New York Stock Exchange. So I've heard the person who purchased the New York Stock Exchange, he said he wants maybe to run one day crypto exchange in there, right? So that's once we introduce businesses in Upland where people will be able to sell NFTs, digital assets to other players. So that's one part of it, right? So which defines somehow where people purchase something, and the other one is what we also see is right now we call that in Upland virtual locality, where people from all around the world. You don't have to be in San Francisco. You don't have to be in New York to play Upland. So you can go now in New York, and there people group together in neighborhoods, even though they're coming from from France, Germany, the US themselves, but they all live virtually now in that special neighborhood in New York City, and that's where actually they start to group together, because those neighborhoods, they were going to be very decentralized. They will have their own, because they can have their designated home address there, and they can, gather around certain topics, like, with other like-minded Uplanders. Maybe they're all interested in art, and they create this virtual art neighborhood, but coming from all over the world. So what we see is, that is, like in the real world, people flock together somehow. What drives them is, besides, interest, of course, also locality, and that's an interesting phenomenon we're currently observing at Upland.
It'll be pretty interesting. Imagine if you had your house on the blockchain and then someone just bought it from you, and it's like you own it physically, but in the metaverse world, you don't.
Yeah, that's the first thing we always hear. Oh, I want to purchase my house, and people are getting disappointed that it's already taken. I mean, that's about scarcity, right? I mean, we have, and that's a big thing about Upland is, we have a defined scarcity in Upland. In one day, right? Today, San Francisco, New York, they sold out for a long time. And then you can only go to the secondary market and purchase the property, from someone who owns it at the moment.
And also, what's your take on that one as well, Sebastien?
I find the Upland model really interesting and also very unique in its own manner. We at Sandbox, we've been really pushing to be seen and to behave like an open metaverse, which means like we're putting high priority on like true ownership from the content made or owned by users, and giving them new opportunities as part of this ecosystem. So by owning a land, first of all, you're able to generate a revenue as publishing your own experience on it, the kind of content you create. You're able to decide whether it's going to be a game, an adventure, a story, an experience, a show, a concert, etc. You'll be able to rent it as well in the future for other creators, since there is really scarcity. There's no more than 166, 464 lands. So once it's all sold out, and these are more creators, then somehow it creates, when you look at Sandbox map, it also creates sort of like virtual Manhattan. And as a platform, we work to bring a lot of incentive and drive audience to those all content that are published on the platform. One thing I find as well really interesting is like all the opportunities that are offered in this new digital economy, leveraging lands as NFTs. So we've been already seeing, as part of the Sandbox ecosystem, the development of virtual real estate brokers, virtual real estate agencies, people who are helping to sell virtual land, not just on marketplaces like OpenSea, but really create their own marketplace, develop their own Zillow kind of business as well, to help facilitate finding the right estate, right land NFT or estates, like group of land of different sizes, and match supply and demand there. that I can think a few of them, including NFT Property Group, for example. We are seeing Meta Hoods as well as a service that was developed on top and helps to match, evaluate the value. Some people are already developing like mathematical model to evaluate the average land price based on like the proximity of the previous land sales of all plots around. It grows a whole ecosystem. People can be entrepreneur, etc. Second thing we're seeing is, we're also seeing like virtual real estate funds, like Republic Realm, for example, being one of the largest, where they have been acquiring digital land into multiple decentralized metaverse. So they probably own Upland, Decentraland, Somnium Space, and Sandbox as well. And they offer like sophisticated investors, but who are not familiar yet into like, how do I understand if I want to enter and own land as an NFT, which facilitate the growth of the ecosystem. And going even further into that whole financial ecosystem, there is like metaverse funds and funds indexes that aggregate both metaverse cryptocurrencies and land parcel to provide behind some package financial product to more sophisticated investors. That's how far the ecosystem goes. And that's, I think it's really interesting to consider that at the basis, we're a gaming virtual world. It's a place that will have an audience that, as progressively all those land open offering game experiences and more, so compare it like business, brick and mortar business in a way, in the physical world, will attract players into them. Those players will begin to spend NFT as well and generate a whole circular economy on the platform that can benefit multiple users beyond the core platform itself.
Yeah, and I like how you kind of brought into like the businesses as well. It's like with all these businesses coming into the metaverse, and with limited land, it's kind of difficult for some of them to say, not try to create a fund, because we're starting to see land sales go up all across the board for all the metaverses, and people are starting to realize that, hey, look, this is literally like real estate. Some of the prices do go up too much as if it's a physical location real estate, but it's starting to get a little bit to that area to where it's like they're starting to kind of open up a little bit more about it. Kind of like on that topic as well, as like, do you think that if these businesses are coming in and accumulating all these land plots, that it would kind of like be the gatekeeper of certain plots of certain areas that might make it hard for the individual to kind of purchase real estate in the metaverse too?
Yeah, so that's of course the question if they purchase everything up, but then I don't think it's really in their interest at the end of the day, because if they own everything, then they have less incentives for average people to come in. And one vision which we always had with Upland is when we developed it, we said we really want to go and attract let's say a mass market audience. So that's the reason we always were thinking mobile first. Upland is available on all those different devices, but also you can use you can use crypto to purchase our in-app currency, but you can also use PayPal and credit card. But what we also have is that you can sell your land for US dollars in Upland. So we have money transmitter license for all across the US to make it really accessible. So, and if now, if you have now concentration of, 5-6 players and they purchase everything up, then it's probably less fun for the others. And that's why, as the people who are defining somehow the metaverse and the game operators, right, it's up to them to have some rules in place where makes it much more interesting to have many players in there, right? And that's why we want to have those neighborhoods. We want to have decentralized governance in those neighborhoods. And then, if only one group is in there, then, they don't interact with others. And then it becomes less interesting. Ergo, their land becomes less interesting for others to purchase. So there must be an incentive scheme which actually allows many players to come in, and I think that's feasible. Of course, at the end of the day, what are we doing with in the metaverse, right? We are somehow all replicating the real world. If it's based on the real world, or like with Sandbox, not based on the real world, but things are going to be very similar happening, right? And you see that you have funds coming in. But I think the more important thing is land is just the infrastructure of everything, which sits on it. But eventually, it's going to be the people who are in those in the metaverse who are going to transact and interact with each other, right? They can either play together, as a thing, but they can run and operate businesses. Sebastien is doing that with Sandbox. We're doing that, right? Or maybe they just hang out and they socialize with each other. So I think that is where the metaverse is going, and we're probably going to go what we see in Upland, through 3 different phases. First, you have the infrastructure phase, which is land, what we're talking here today. Then you have the second phase, which is the economy, where people, starting interacting with each other. And then the third one is, everything where it mixes reality with the virtual world much, much more, even further together. And I think that is probably what we are going to see. And hopefully, I think no metaverse, no application of the metaverse, Sandbox, Decentraland, Upland, no one has really the incentive, right, to have only 5 or 6 players in there who own everything, because it's just going to destroy the economy.
Yes, I really agree with Dirk on that one, and that's been what we've been pushing for. Like, if you look at some of the numbers, Sandbox, we are now more than 500,000 registered user accounts with a wallet. Half of them, they enter the space for the first time without a wallet. And well, there's only I see, for us, it's a big number. I think we have 12,000 landowners. So there's still a lot of demand versus the number of total users in Sandbox, which is not a bad thing, because essentially over those 12,000 users, it was almost a luck moment. You feel proud. The people who bought land in Sandbox, they really feel proud of owning it, because there's so much demand trying to purchase. I don't know if by any chance you participated into one of Sandbox land sale, where it really sells out in like the matter of 5 seconds now. And that means like the chances that someone could own or buy via our system, the majority of it are so dim that we're seeing that by the number. Well, concretely speaking, the number of unique landowners, no single one owning more than 1% of the world is already something very impressive. And it's a world, again, I go back to this idea, it's really evolving over time. We haven't sold everything out yet. We've been selling 60% to date. There will still be land available for sale until the end of 2022. There will be room for new major IP, major brand to enter it. And I'm pretty excited by what's coming soon. And that gives, again, more chances and even locations, because we didn't sell everything as a block in certain areas. We design it in a way that even you don't know yet who will be your neighbor. So who knows, maybe you will be becoming the neighbor of a large celebrity suddenly. Everyone has a chance to own a parcel of land that can be also variable in the future based on who's going to enter next the Sandbox. So the world is evolving, and the communities that join as well, we've seen that since the beginning of the year, when we started to have Bored Ape, Voxodeus, Zepeto, South China Morning Post. They bring along them major creativity, major creative people, and hundreds of smaller landowners who want to be their virtual neighbor and going to participate into creating unique experiences we've never seen before, leveraging Game Maker and pushing for play to earn and NFTs and avatars, their original avatar collection that will be bridged and become 3D content in Sandbox. So in that sense, that's amazing.
Yeah, we have the same distribution, right? We sold right now a little bit around 1.5 million NFT properties, right? And we have a little bit more than 100,000, property owners. So which gives you roughly 10 to 15, properties per owner, which is a very healthy distribution. And of course, we have some speculators who purchase a lot of properties, and some who have a little number of properties. But we hope that this, this will, balance out over time, and people are proud to have 1 or 2 properties. Just like in real life, you have your home where you live, and maybe you have a vacation home where you do other things going forward.
Kind of like just having one.
Metaverse.
Yeah, only in the metaverse.
There, fashion show, architecture shows, etc. It's incredible when you see what the community makes. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, build a community and then kind of like even have it to where they're building together. Think of it as like land partnerships, right? Hey, you're my neighbor. I don't know who you are, but let's build something together. We're all within the metaverse. All I see is just your username, and you see my username. But they can be collaborations, and I like how like for the sandbox too. It's like you'll never know who your neighbor would be. there's a huge area in the middle that's kind of like what is going to be there next, or like whenever the collaborations do come, it's like oh crap, like Snoop Dogg's here, Bored Apes is here. Kind of seeing the different businesses come into it as well. It's really interesting how the metaverses are all shaping up to kind of start pushing into that virtual world setting. So we're starting to reach the end of this panel session, and I kind of wanted to just do a quick, just kind of like one final question for everyone. So like for the metaverse and kind of like real estate as well, as like where do you kind of like see it within like 6 months and a year, and kind of like what are you guys currently looking into in terms of like building out like which tools that are needed, or like which tools that you're building out for at least for the public as well. Let's go ahead and start with you, Dirk.
So going forward, as I said, we have the different phases we want to go through. Obviously, we continue selling, lands of the different cities around the world. But eventually, what we want to do is, and we have to see what we currently, when you purchase a land, you start earning just for the pure fact that you're owning it. You start earning a yield on it, like currently 17%. You can increase that when you start a collection, collect multiple properties like on the same street with same characteristics. However, we envision actually that our metaverse or our part of the metaverse will become like a real economy that people transact with each other, right? In economics, you call that also the velocity, which we want to increase. When people are doing transactions between them, and that's exactly where we think, okay, then we can actually go down with the subsidies, what we're currently doing, because then you have the real economy. People are trading goods between them, and then the metaverse becomes completely self-sustainable. And if we achieve that point, that's awesome. I think that's probably still a couple of probably years out until we're there, but that is clearly the path which I think not just us, I think all metaverse applications want to go.
And also Sebastien, your point of view.
Well, I think we're just a starting point of like how people are going to leverage virtual real estate in the metaverse. We're among our community and the various projects that own land and start building. We're seeing a lot of creativity, and if you follow us over our different social media accounts, you can see them posting teaser visuals on almost a daily basis on what's happening. Every day there's almost a new project, a new community that's going to leverage Sandbox as part of its roadmap somehow as an activation for engaging and offering more utility, more value for their community, whether it's actually a physical brand or an existing NFT project. I think that we can satisfy and meet the need for both. And I'm also quite excited to see like how some of those projects are comprehending even virtual real estate development in a very, very advanced way. So we've seen like the concept of Fantasy Island by Republic Realm, where like they took empty land parcel, they built on top of them unique houses, unique harbor where you can buy a speedboat, can buy your own house, and well, as an NFT collector, investor, or just a gamer, you get a whole package place now instead of just the land infrastructure as we do. And it's something important, and that's something that's now being possible because Sandbox is just a platform that gives creative tools, but there's a whole ecosystem around Sandbox now that exists with hundreds of creators who are familiar with those creation tools and now establishing their businesses, funding their own studios to be the first architects, designers, work for hire studio, marketing agencies, creative agencies, and alikes that will be building. And there are so many more opportunities in terms of like how do we service those landowners in terms of content creation, community management, etc., and how users can interact and benefit as well through dynamic like play to earn, owning and collecting token, for example, inside those land. So yeah, that's what we're looking forward to build, and we see within 5 years, hopefully, but let's say 10 to be not too optimistic, that the 166, 164 land in Sandbox will be all 100% owned by the community, and we'll have hundreds of thousands of experience, each one of them with their own play to earn season, with their own content, virtual shows, and more that users can enjoy and earn from.
Excellent. It's literally just it's a virtual world. Like anything can be built on it, and having independent areas to where you can start building out everything. You know,
and the ideal solution is, if Sebastien and we're working all together, right? That we have our people going between those different worlds, right? Right now, everyone's very heads down with their own thing. We launched an NFT portal where we allow to import other NFTs into Upland from other blockchains. But going forward, would be awesome. That's a big vision. I think we all creators of who are working on the metaverse have is that we the users, they have an identity, they have that maybe in Upland, and then they go through a portal to Sebastien's sandbox, and they do something else there, right? I think that's I think the ultimate goal, and if we all achieve that, then we can really do a big check mark here.
We'll definitely try to support that. Interoperability for us, it's a long-term goal. We want to really add value and enable any existing NFT to take life into Sandbox in a way. So your avatar in Upland could become a character in Sandbox and vice versa, hopefully. And that would be a great start to show as well, like how us as Metaverses are open based on NFT, etc., are different from Second Life, Roblox, etc.
I like it. It's kind of like the metaverses are going to have a road. So think of it as like one of them is Earth, one of them is Mars. But it's two different types of areas, but we'll still be connected. Hopefully we go to the Mars soon. Please, Elon Musk. But once again, thank you guys for joining us today and kind of like giving your insights on kind of like the importance of virtual real estate and metaverses. And for those tuning in as well, make sure that you're following them on social media. Please check out the Sandbox and also check out Upland, and continue on being within the metaverse. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.